Wednesday, August the 7th. Lake level is right at 918. It's come up about, almost 2 foot since our report last week. And I'm really surprised it hasn't come up anymore. I mean, we've had a bunch of rain and still got a bunch more, water coming in from all around the lake. And it looks like we still got probably a couple more days of rain. But they're dumping the lake, pretty good. I've actually had a few days off this week. I did some camping with the grandkids. So I haven't done a bunch of fishing, but I think I've done like 3 days. But with the water coming up, I haven't been way up in the Upper James or the Upper Kings. I don't know if it's getting muddy up there, but I've been fishing in the backs of the creeks, like up around Baxter and Ants Creek and in those areas. And actually the water's still really pretty clear. Everything that's coming in, a week or so ago when it started raining, it washed the mud and the leaves and everything in. Now everything that's coming in is pretty clean. So if we start getting some muddy water, it's going to be from the river arms themselves. Like I say, everything that's running into the lake is real clean. It's actually cooled the water temperature down a little bit too. The water temperature seems to be about 80 to about 80 and a half. And we hadn't had much sunshine, so it hadn't been changing. And there's a variety of things that I found to be going on. With all the rain and clouds, I haven't found the topwater bite to be like what I would think it would be, on a cloudy, overcast day. And where I'm catching them on top, it seems to be more over like the main lake open flats or all the way in the backs of the creeks where there's actually some water running in. And I've been fishing a lot of the runoff with all the rain that we've had, and I seem to be doing, the best back into creeks and back into pockets. The main lake bite, the drop shot and football jig, to me it's really slow. You can't catch but 2 or 3 fish in a spot. It seems like you got to be on the move all the time. And most of them are Kentuckies, but out in them same areas, them drop shot areas, there's been a lot of fish kind of schooling. You'll see individual fish, 1 or 2 come up. And I think it was the day before yesterday, I had a 3-pound largemouth and a 3-pound smallmouth on the same spook at one time. The fish just come up surfacing. I cast it out there and was fortunate enough to catch 2 on 1 lure. But other than that, I've tried a lot of the deeper bluff ends and over submerged trees as far as pulling the fish up out of the trees on the topwater with very little success. The topwater bit of success I've had has been back in the creeks where the water's been coming in, and maybe, like 2/3 of the way back into the creeks I've been fishing back in there, and I've been catching them on a spinnerbait and a spook, and now with the water coming up I've been flipping several bushes and stuff back in there. I've been throwing a 3/8 ounce and a 1/2 ounce Screaming Eagle. The 1/2 ounce Screaming Eagle's got small blades like what a 1/4 ounce bait would have, and it's got a lot of weight here on the hook so that you can burn the bait without it rolling. That's a kind of a chartreuse and white. Another one that's been working is one's called Hot Mouse. And I've also been throwing just a straight 3/8 ounce, got a little bit bigger blades, and this is a purple shad. And I've been throwing trailer hooks on them in case I get some short strikes. And as far as what I've been flipping, I've been mixing it up between a jig and a beaver and a bait that a buddy of mine's been making. And we're going to get into them baits. He's been making me a lot of drop shot baits throughout the summer, a lot of variety of stuff. But this one bait here he's making, I'll show you a closer up picture in just a second, but we call it the Big Tick. It's been real good for me for a good flipping bait. It's kind of a beaver style bait, but it's got legs. And I have been catching some fish on a Renovation Sweet Beaver. Now, California 420 color's been working real good for me. Now, as far as the flipping stuff, there's a lot of stuff to flip, but it seems like I've got to have a little channel coming up against the bank where it kind of swings in, and I've been doing the best in the majority of the creeks, not much out there on the main lake. But I've been back in there where some of the water's coming in, but not all the way to the very back, about 2/3 of the way back in. And I'm basically throwing it up around the rock, around the willows, any kind of brush or laydowns that are in the water. I'm just fishing everything that I see. In some coves, you'll get into, the bait will be a lot more active. And without a doubt, that seems to be where my best bite is, whether it's on the spinnerbait or the spook or the beaver flipping. And the jig I've been throwing is a 3/8 ounce and a 1/2 ounce pig sticker Snowden jig. Last week I was swimming the jig. This week it seems like I got to keep the jig on the bottom and just crawl around. But anything with the green or brown has been working real well. Like I said, the water clarity is still real good back in the creeks. I hadn't been up into the upper James, Kings, or Long Creek to see if it's muddy yet. Now these baits this buddy of mine's making, I'm going to give you an email address as far as how to get them, but he's been making me a lot of finesse baits, a lot of drop shot baits. There's a little 4-inch spade tail. He's got one he calls a honey dipper, and he really does an awesome job. Here's some of them are hand pour, some of them are injection molds. Here's a laminated spade tail worm, 4.5 inch. Been working awesome as far as on a drop shot. But you can get pretty creative as far as what colors and stuff you want. One thing he started making me this spring, which we caught a lot of fish on during the split shot season, was this leggy centipede. He's got this in 2 different sizes, 2 different lengths on it. And he doesn't also make, small worms isn't the only thing he makes. He makes big worms too. Now, and he's been making some for some guys up at Lake of the Ozarks. I know they've been winning some night tournaments on them. I've been throwing this here some. I haven't done real good on it in the last 3 or 4 weeks, but when the water was getting warm, the fish were getting out there on that structure stuff, I was throwing it on a 5/8 ounce shaky head and doing good with it. Now, he's got some deals where he can make these things float straight up. So if you're fishing it on a shaky head or a Texas rig, the worm will float right up off bottom. And he's also been playing with a little bit of that float stuff in some of the beaver baits. So if you've got it tied on a jig head, the bait will actually float straight up off the bottom. But here's the bait that I've been flipping here. We call it the Big Tick. Like I said, it's kind of similar to a beaver, but yet it's got legs more like a full-size brush hog. And this is a green pumpkin. This is similar to like a California 420 is what the color is. But he makes a variety of different baits in a variety of different colors. And like I say, I'll give you an email link where if you want to get a hold of him to make some baits, and he'll probably make them whatever colors you want if you get creative and want some different things. And the awesome part about it is all the proceeds, everything he makes from these is going to the Hope for the Warriors. He doesn't make any money off of these. And actually, when you get them, the baits are kind of free, and he just asks for a donation, for a reasonable donation for the bait. So you pretty much pay for the baits what you feel is right, And that's a pretty awesome deal because he's giving up his time. And like I say, everything that he's making, he's even buying the plastics himself, but everything he makes from these goes to the Hope for Warriors Foundation, a really good cause. So like I said, I'll put his email address on our website, a link to it, and he's got a lot more different baits that I haven't shown you here today. The guy's got a full-time job, so this is just kind of a hobby deal that he's doing. So you may have to wait for some of your baits, but I guarantee you it'll be worth the wait because there's several of us here this summer been doing real good on all the finesse stuff, all the drop shot worms and stuff he's been making us. He can make them with salt, without salt, whatever combination you want and what you want in the bait as far as sets, he can do it. Now as far as the fishing, I look for the lake level to continue to rise. Like I say, they've been pulling about 8 to 10,000 cubic feet a second. The lakes, they're kind of staying up with what's coming in, but they're not gaining. Depends how much more rain that we get. And depends what happens downstream too as far as how much they can let out. But I would look for the shallow. The shallow bite has been without a doubt the most consistent because the water temperature like it is. So even if you can't catch them flipping, I'd still look for the fish in that, shouldn't have to fish much deeper than 15 to 18 foot. unless you're out there drop shotting or spooning, fishing deep, you know, there's still a lot of fish around the docks. But like I say, most of them seem to be Kentuckies. My better fish, as far as on the smallmouths and largemouths, have been 18 foot or less. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.